The main problem of yoga in the Western society you belong to is promotion of its reduced version. Spirituality and some esoteric components are taken away, and only physiology is left, as it can be easily solved. Why this happens? What do you think? From the audience. Students are likely not to be ready to hear it out, or some may be ready, others not. That's why a majority-oriented teaching is given. After all, a yoga studio is a premise that has to be paid for. More people ought to be engaged in the process. That's why it turns to be commercialized. Well, if we put it simply, due to yoga commercialization, talking about spirituality can be very dangerous, as you can be taken as a sect and you'll face abuse. Economic-wise, yoga can be sold easier and faster if it's health-oriented. Join us and you'll have a healthy spine, and a healthy spine is the base for everything, and you'll be happy. But let's have a look from a fundamental aspect of yoga, a spiritual one. So, here is a man who's a non-adequate reality perception. He's been turned into a zombie, roughly speaking, or a great deal of impulses, obstructing from a normal reality perception, have been inculcated in him while living in the society. Hence, here is a normal man who lives as a consumer. Can you imagine? He's shuttling among 3-4 points of his life: work, home, TV, sleep, and then again, work, home, TV, sleep. Once a year, he's allowed to have a break in the health resort, and then back to the same routine. And the majority of the traders and businessmen caste lives accordingly, unfortunately. It can be even worse for those who run business. They can work for 20 hours a day at best. Then they faint for 4 hours at night and again run, and that's their choice. So, health-oriented yoga studios exist for these people. Now, let's think. Here's a man chasing his tail. Name me any activity that ruins our planet. What kind of activity can it be? From the audience. Actually, anyone. Oil industry, timber cutting, mining. Thus, almost any activity damages our planet, right? It reminds me a joke about Mars meeting Earth. Heard of it? The Mars and the Earth meet in the space. The Mars asks, "How are you doing?" The Earth answers, "Oh, I'm so bad." "Why so?" "I've got a virus, a mankind." The Mars answers back, "Oh, no worries, it will be over." In fact, the majority of people behaves as raiders. Individually, each and every one is good. He lives for himself and his family, right? But if you see the common outcome, terrifying things turn to come to the surface. Let's reflect on the following. There is a society that destroys this planet, and there are yoga studios that say, "Join us and you'll be healthy," to destroy the planet even more efficiently. What's the stand of those who recover health of the planet raiders? Economically, they will be fine. But what will happen after their death? They'll be asked, "Dear, what have you been engaged into?" He'll answer, "I have been into a healthy spine recovery." What for? For a faster planet destruction. You see the problem? If, let's say, an inventor has invented an 80% more efficient engine, you know what happens? The invention will be put on the dust covers. So that the planet keeps being raided by oil industry, polymers, etc. As the rulers of this world are concerned in stability, a new engine changes the concept of the machinery. What will the industry do? How to keep people? Dull-witted people cannot comprehend the fact that the planet is no longer able to keep the society. Talking about geopolitics, we understand that there are some powers against an adequate development of the planet. They make it leak the boots the way it does now, and I do mean it. We went to the supermarket in Kiev to see what products can be bought there. Founders have done actually a very good job. There are no such products in Moscow. If you are adequate, there is nothing to buy in Moscow supermarkets. They are filled with terrible stuff. I can ensure that the situation in Moscow is many times worse than here. From the audience. What do you eat then? We try to buy food predominantly in more or less true markets. Then our wives manage to cook something. What you have on supermarket shelves here is really cool. At least you are given a chance to survive. People in Moscow are not given even a chance. They are fattened up as food is a pure nightmare. From the audience, there must be another scenario prepared for Ukraine. Right, a light version at best. Let's get back to yoga that promotes and stands up for health and similar things. What can it be? Either health-oriented or Kundalini awakening, a light mysticism, meditation to relax one's mind, for even more efficient work, etc. I've been into this sphere for a long time. I've met different people and wondered why they had opted this or that yoga style to promote. Different reasons were given, but the most important thing is that founders of yoga studios do not understand about karma. They don't think of it. I'll give an example. The most famous yoga studio in Moscow misuses yoga teachers now for the sake of business. The financial agreement now between teachers and the studio is completely contrary to the one in the establishing period. Shortly, they squeeze teachers out as it's just a business. But there is another yoga studio in Moscow that has created great conditions for teachers. 30% of income studio gets and 70% a teacher does. I believe it's really good, as the teacher has the chance to grow. But I have to say that this studio is promoting spirituality, as I can see from their seminars, masters they invite, etc. And I don't even know the founders, by the way. But these kind of cases exist. So, I am addressing to you. In case you become a yoga teacher one day, trust me, I've gone through the same things many years ago. When I started to teach at the age of 22, I was young and green. Being silly, I did not understand yoga, and the only thing I was focused on was health. I preached yoga for health, as I saw yoga as a tool to become 100% healthy. And I was actually successful in that. But to be honest, in 3 years' time, I got a consciousness-striking realization that health cannot be solved with the help of yoga. I used to read some scriptures, but I didn't see even a word about health in original sources. Yesterday, I was asked a question about injury prevention. You know, I've read a sufficient amount of Vedic knowledge and yoga-related scriptures. So I believe that there is no such term as injury prevention in Sanskrit. Those who understand the law of karma and reincarnation take this phrase as an absurd. You must be insane to believe in it, you see? According to Vedic culture, there is no such thing as injury prevention, as it's impossible. Why so? Any negative situation has to be treated positively at most, if a human being comprehends that any action leads to a reaction, a payoff. For example, we have been practicing one style for a couple of years. Its founder teaches very advanced asanas and helps students tie themselves in a knot. You can see that on many pictures in the internet, and people love it. Let me explain why this happens. When you practice yoga, even without any notion of asceticism, you intend to go deeper and deeper as you meet with tension that is replaced with a comfort and then a pleasant relaxation once relieved. This pleasant feeling of relaxation is the reason to be yoga for the majority. They step on a yoga mat for a very harsh torture. Have you practiced our yoga? We lose no sleep over injury prevention. There is nothing super difficult in what we teach, but simple stuff that can help a man reach a good level. Though some other schools that work the group way too hard, so that students sweat thrice during the class and drag themselves out of the room, and after some time the students spread their wings. That's what attracts a practitioner. But imagine that one reaches the level of not sweating in familiar asanas, so he moves to advanced ones, right? For the sake of the asceticism in practice, different levels of asanas exist, not for the sake of form or showing off and filming it. It's all secondary. The main point is to level up the asceticism to be able to work with karma. Criticism of those who tie up themselves in knots comes out of karma law ignorance. You see what is promoted now. One may say, I am competent in yoga as I am a doctor and graduated from this and that. Medical degree and knowledge about physiology don't have any value for me as a yogi. Many different specialists, including medicians, attend my classes and practice quite well. But their medical education makes no matter for spiritual and energetic development. Modern educational programs of medical institutes do not reveal all the levels of our existence, but material one. Let's get back to advanced asanas and intention of a practitioner to bend themselves deeper. Injuries may happen. For instance, I know one man who lives here in Kiev and works in one of the studios. He's been tied in one difficult asana. His legs were behind his head or even tucked under his armpits. Have you imagined? His leg was firstly put behind his head and then was tucked on the armpit. Both legs at the same time were there. As a result, his spine was harmed and he limped on both legs. There are many cases like this. Another man narrated about Iyengar's attitude to his students. One guy performed an asana. I don't remember which one. So Iyengar helped him and literally caused a spine break by pressing too much. When Iyengar led a class in his ashram, a stick accompanied him. So you see, there is no such thing as an injury prevention. Imagine what happened if a student couldn't understand anything. He's been stimulated fast to get a result. Come to India and talk to someone about an injury prevention. But you have to visit an ashram for Indians, as there are European-oriented ashrams that know about importance of injury prevention for Europeans.
Им нужна травма безопасности, говорят, им что-нибудь такое скажут. Или разъезжают иногда индусы, которые говорят с точки зрения травмы безопасности об асанах.
You know, if this is told to someone in India, you'd be taken insane and be laughed at. What injury prevention are you talking about? Don't you know about karma? That's the main problem. Another example. I have already told you about one old man who had been working all his life and then started practicing yoga and reached samadhi. He called himself a liberator. So, we lived in the same ashram for some time. One day he disappeared. No one knew where he was. He came back in a month. He turned to be bitten by a scorpion while trekking in Himalayas. Scorpions are still there in Himalayas. Due to a bite, his leg swollen up so that the man couldn't walk. Do you think he went to the hospital? No, nothing like that at all. He found a place where he stayed and was cured with some herbs or something like that. He got recovered and returned back. No issues. So those who practice mature yoga with a karmic perspective treat their bodies differently from the way we do. You see, a body is just a tool given for some time. There is another level of reality perception. Here is my real-life example. A friend of mine promotes yoga for a healthy spine that serves as a basis for everything. As usual, people who suffer from health problems attend his classes. So I asked him, "Listen, do you actually believe in what you push?" He answered me, "Sure, I do. First, we start with a spine recovery, then real yoga comes with inner practices, etc. You know, as per my observation for many years, I came to conclusion that those who concern themselves with health, they keep it on for lifelong, and due to lack of time, they never proceed to something else. What's the reason for that? As all the time is spent on keeping up a defined level? Exactly. A healthy state is not constant. Imagine a so-called healthy state being reached by you. It will get changed in 2 months of a social life if it's not maintained. So the rest of the life seems to be dedicated to a proper keep-up health level. That's the main issue. Some exceptions quite possibly exist. However, the majority of people who tend to tie up with the health preservation get stuck there instead of proceeding to spiritual practices. Question from the audience. What about a proverb, a sound mind in a sound body? The matter is that you have cited just a first part of the proverb. According to the scripture, the second part says, "A sound mind in a sound body is a big blessing or a big rarity," from the audience. So either sound body or a sound mind? You know, nowadays, physically strong humans are not able to develop. Those who have faced real difficulties with their bodies incline to spirituality, from the audience. That's true, but body improvement cannot harm afterwards. Your words are correct to some extent. Point is that the reached result depends on the emphasis you put. Imagine a teacher who gives a healthy body for his students. According to the law of karma, this teacher carries the burden of responsibility of what he's caused. For example, what's the most negative social manifestation from karmic point of view? From the audience. It must be a murder? Andrey, well, any other examples? From the audience. To be a parasite in the society? To lead astray, maybe?
Знаете, мне в одном... Давай, хорошо.
I'll give you another quite interesting example I've been told recently.
Любопытный.
One mom practices in a yoga studio and she takes her son alone. Being wealthy, they take a private class.
Индивидуальные тренировки.
After the class, a yoga teacher has a chat with the young man and figures out that he's into business.
Молодым человеком. Не знаю, как на камеру рассказывать. Так в том-то и дело, вырезать-то не нужно. Это такой момент, который, в принципе, хорошо. Давайте другой пример, потому что тот пример лучше не переводить. Потому что там же скач полнейший. То есть человек, как бы зная, что...
That destroys many destinies of others, but he takes it easy. It's just a business and nothing personal.
Спокойно. Бизнес, ничего личного так. Ну, давайте, хорошо.
Another example.
Извините. Добрый день.
A manager of some organization that is into some indecent operations, I mean, his subordinates, do some indecent chicken feed. It doesn't actually matter what exactly it is. There are plenty of these kind of companies. So, this manager starts attending yoga classes. He says, I'm so ill and I'm no longer able to perform my duties of a parasite in the society. And his yoga teacher responds, it's not a problem at all, we'll fix you up and you can be back to your stuff. His muscles are strengthened, he's all brand new and can give his 120% to harm people around and spread misfortune. You see the point? Regrettably, many people do not live in good consciousness. Even understanding it, they insist that one must howl with the wolves. That's why those who bring back health to people awaiting for their bad karma payoff, they take some of that karma upon themselves. For instance, a man who has committed, let's say, a murder, and as per his karma, he may kill a certain amount of living beings and fall into lower worlds. Remember a story of a professional killer who gave up his career and vowed not to kill anyone after seeing his life up to death. He saw where murders lead to, regardless the aim. The laws of humans differ from the laws of the gods. What a man faces with after his death? With a labor code? Oh no, not at all. He'll be said, we are sorry, you had to live in such a world. But you have broken some universal laws. You are a strange soul for any world, as your outlook is distorted. You have to be rectified. So imagine a murderer who has committed a certain amount of villainies, then die and reincarnate. But if this murderer finds himself in a yoga studio and he said, oh, you have money, that's great. For the sake of your money, we can help you return the house. After all, the man has lived a longer life as a parasite and has even aggregated his karma. What kind of karma retribution will await his yoga teacher? Appropriate one. Exactly. That's an accessory of his crimes. That's the reason why the majority of tolerant yoga studios that do not understand the law of karma increase their karma debts. That's the fact. If someone is into yoga business, first of all, understanding of mature yoga must have been gained by reading yoga origins about karma and reincarnation. Once they realize what they do, for whom and what for, their hair will stand on end. From the audience, do you ask people who attend your classes about their occupation and motivation? And does a yoga teacher have to know each and every student personally and his goals? Andrey, it's not that complicated. The atmosphere in our yoga studio protects us from those practitioners whose energy is not fitting. If someone inappropriate comes for a class, he never stays for more than one class, he vanishes away. And from the audience. So they are filtered naturally, Andrey. If the energy of maturity is kept up and people live in a good consciousness, their energy cannot let pass those who, just trust me, we have experienced it many times. Strange people come and then disappear. From the audience. A yoga teacher supports the space by his energy by setting high spiritual goals for himself. So he turns out to either attract certain people or distract them. Is that correct, Andrey? Roughly speaking, it is like that. But the matter is not in teacher himself. Even if he understands certain laws and he develops right motivation, practitioners that are interested in background will gather around him. What's the difference of our yoga club from others? We are in search of background. We don't look for only yoga in Russia or other countries, but the heart, the essence of it. From the audience, I'm not getting that. What background are you talking about? Andrey, I'm talking about yoga's background. From the audience, I have a question and a comment. I know some adequate yoga teachers who know the sense of yoga, which is different from the physical training. Still, they don't agitate on ready newcomers with all this. First, they are attracted by physical training. Later on, they may be interested in a deeper stuff. Maybe it's a wrong approach if they are met with a categorical explanation of a yoga, and those who wanted to get a physical trainer are kicked out. Andrey, you are right, but count the yoga teachers you know, who came to know the particulars of yoga, and those who don't. I assure you, there are 3-5 those who understand the essence and don't agitate others, but the overwhelming majority. Listen, I've been on this path for 18 years. One may say I am a professional, and I know many yoga teachers very well. I know what they live with. Moreover, it doesn't actually matter what one lives with now. Understanding the path he follows, I know what one will get. Here's an example. Teaching a healthy spine, a yoga instructor comes across those parasites who, mildly speaking, harm others, and he helps recover their health. As per the law of karma, he will turn to be more and more materialistic and less spiritual, and so on. From the audience, so he degrades. Andrey, it is reasonable that it happens. Please understand, he has to get through this path as per his karma. Let's assume his motion vector leads downwards for improvement. Having happened in this world, he doesn't take yoga as a spiritual path, but a material one that helps earn or something else. That's why, as per karma, he attracts people who contribute in his decline. It is a fact that those who teach and lead seminars are not able to study themselves in most of the cases. The one who talks cannot listen anymore. You may doubt, but indeed it is like this. The majority of teachers do not have any time for self-development. They have to treat themselves all the time, as teaching such as seminars or certificate courses is demanding. Regrettably, I wouldn't say that. If there weren't so many smoking and drinking yoga teachers. Here's a fresh case. I got a message from one guy. Andrey, I need your piece of advice. On the one hand, I want to practice yoga. On the other one, the only yoga teacher of my city drinks and smokes. What should I do? I find it a problem, so I sent him a yoga manual for self-tuition, the one I usually share if there are no adequate teachers. Trust me, yoga for the majority is a business only, in all places. Your example of an understanding teacher falls on the 0.1%. I'd be very happy if the rest would be understanding and, as you said, teach bit by bit without agitation. Unfortunately, as per my experience, it doesn't happen. So, where I'm getting at, if you have a chance to practice yoga or feel mighty to teach yoga, I emphasize that yoga teaching is the best form of life that exists. Due to a classical education or upbringing in society, or even high education or maybe even 2 degrees, it may sound weird to you and you may think what a bullshit he's talking about, the highest form of life. But let me explain what I mean. Point is, the majority of current professions do not concord with the law of karma. Even a legal firm that provides legal services to companies assumes certain responsibility for the work. So a percent of karma is received by them, whatever you might say. Why is this important? There is an old Russian term kon, which means a circle. Have you heard of it? So the concept of kon is prescriptions, so that people live in good consciousness. The word law in Russian means beyond the circle. Most of modern countries live according to the law, which is actually a right of the mighty over the weak. Take news reports for the past year, and you can learn the following. Where is oil on the planet? We are coming there. Don't you want to give it away? We can use our might. It's been always like that. If you take the history of the planet for the past 102 years, stronger enslaves weaker, predator eats up feeble. So that's the law beyond the circle, a right of the mighty over the weak. Actually, from the point of view of the higher world, it's ridiculous. Those who live as per this law are dull-witted. Some may say that they don't believe in reincarnation and only one life exists, and it has to be lived to the fullest, and everything else can go to hell. Have you met these kind of people? The majority is like that. Most of people who don't live in all honesty are afraid of thinking about karma. They state it's a bullshit. Petrov has both house and a car, and he's in clover. What kind of karma are you telling me about if Petrov is so-and-so, and he killed that and that, and he's all good? Thus, there is no karma. One has to reply on that. Certain concepts are not understood by you. Read chapter 16 of Mahabharata, where Indra gives divine perspective to Yudhishthira on why a moral moron is allowed to realize his potential to the fullest. Any ideas why? From the audience. So he can be punished to the maximum, and then he can clear away negative karma from others? Andrey, not really. Remember our talk about a transfer of received thanksgiving to future lives. So, if a parasite or a dull-witted who lives on expense of others cannot be incarnated downwards for improvement, as long as he has some blessings, he simply won't sit on a frying pan. I use rough words and Christian terms to make the idea clear to you. Unless he burns out his thanksgivings, his life is sitting pretty. But he burns them out intensively, and after that, you are all grown-ups. You know that if one is riding high for 2-3 years, then falling off, have you noticed? It does happen. Received some money and glory fast. People are at their height initially, and then on the decline for a very long time.
Подожди, тогда отложим вопрос, я все-таки закончу мысль, почему преподавание йоги считается с точки зрения других миров максимально ценным.
If you read original scriptures, you can see in black and white that strongest king welcomes a poor Brahmin, saying, "Oh, my dear Brahmin, I am so happy to see you. I'll do anything for you." Was he an idiot or what? Just think of the empire he owns, the ways he exploits others. Nevertheless, when it comes to a Brahmin, his talk is submissive. Why it happens? From the audience, Brahmin's evolutional level is higher. Andrey, how does he know about it? Answer from the audience, from Vedic scriptures. Andrey, who are Brahmins? Most of them are warriors who practice asceticism once their career got over, thinking of future incarnations. So, where I lead to, why Brahmins were higher? Indeed, Brahmins had powers warriors did not possess. The accurate hierarchy is formed naturally. The more various pleasures one strives for, the lower his intellectual and spiritual potential is. The more one hunts, enjoys, amuses himself, the more primitive he gets by the end of his life. Unlike Brahmins, who try to muster up their potential, to realize it first of all for the benefit of all living beings. Thus Brahmins were those who supported the law within the circle, not the law beyond it. That's why, according to the scriptures, Brahmins or wizards, as wise men, were called belong to the caste that might have been poor, as there weren't ambitions, and they lived a simple and moderate life. But that was knowledge and energy they valued the most. I'm saying it as the three worlds are in the same situation. Those who keep knowledge and energy are primary. All the properties, such as cars, flats, etc., are minor, as those who chase flats and cars are short-sighted, and they cannot look around. Once you reach everything, what's next? Do you intend to drive 3 cars all your life? No. What comes to you once you pass away? Those who are engaged into self-development are higher than those who are used to play with toys in any world. Imagine a sandbox filled of various toys and one book. Here children come. Those who cannot read play with toys, build up some castles on sand, drive their toy cars. But the one who is aware of knowledge value and the one who can read would say, "Are you kidding me? Why do I need all these cars and houses? I would better read a book." As all these will be destroyed, another gang will come and annihilate whatever has been built before to erect their projects. That's why I prefer to be engaged in something else. Clear? That's why steadiness, knowledge, and energy I appreciate it for. If life keeps changing from riding high to falling down, and then again riding high, people reincarnate in the same way. Brahmin's reincarnation is always stable and adequate, regardless of the world they get to. Question from the audience. It turns out that if a man does not possess knowledge and chase material goods, he spends out his vital energy to keep up the luxury and his standards level. He cannot engage himself into something even if he desires so. Andrey, you mean he cannot engage himself into self-development? That's true. There are no materially burdened among you. It's impossible. Those who have a big business and a great deal of debts are not capable of developing. As per their understanding, yoga is for dummies by definition. A stratum of the society which is neither poor nor rich, but right in the middle, is able to practice. People below cannot do due to shortage of food, and people above cannot do due to leakage of the energy to sustain the assets. You see that they don't have a chance to practice. From the audience. If a person is inclined to learning since his birth, but the life has been turned according to karma, and he walks away from the path for a long time, then he'll be back in a certain period of life, as he seems to have reached some level in his previous life, and he's into learning. Andrey, I got your question. It is not known. Let's assume his motion vector goes a bit down and our world is just to be passed by. He may realize some of his spiritual potential, but as per his karma, the material world captures him by motto, live to the fullest, which he takes on trust and acts accordingly, degrading further on. If a motion vector goes up, then, appearing in our world and coming across a motto, live to the fullest, he will not take it on trust, but rather puts it on trial. In a while after trying some things, he realizes that it's unnecessary and goes upper. When I told you about Brahman's choice to knowledge, you might have wondered why. The matter is that they have had enough of material games on their plate in previous lives. There are people who reincarnate from life to life with a lot of holdings. A man who managed legions has definitely seen enough of blood, and he's no longer interested in it. Or those who rule entire planets, finding themselves in this world, consider it primitive. What's the point of revealing on oil production and sales? As the person understands that nothing happens in this world for no particular reason. There are reasons of oil production. You know, by the way, the origin of oil from the audience, it comes from Earth. Andrey, right, but how it happened to be there? From the audience. There are many theories such as over-rotten wood. Andrey, one theory says that great layers of biomass are squeezed by pressure, and some certain bacteria appear there and multiply in number by eating up the matter first, then each other, that causes the energy production. So, bacteria eating up each other under a great, huge pressure produce so-called fuel. So people living thanks to oil used to be bacteria and produced the product and produced the product, and now pump it out for sale. Selling whatever has been produced by them in the past is a light version. The hard version is they will be pumped out and sold for a very long time in the future. Most often these people are not capable of development at all, as they are either in the hell or riding high or falling down. This example may seem the most dramatic, but that's how it is. Question from the audience. What about exceptions? Let's say a Yogananda, an advanced yogi who had a disciple millionaire involved into oil production, but still he could reach samadhi easily. I mean, he was an advanced practitioner and spent a lot of time with master. Is money indeed an obstacle? Andrey, his outlook is a very rare exception. His experience in samadhi does not signify anything. I have already explained that samadhi experience doesn't show anything. It is not an argument, at least for me. I know a lot of samadhi practitioners who definitely have a room for improvement. The example you have given must be a version of producing first, then consuming. That's why he's all fine with money and still could practice yoga. To my big regret, most of people snatched for future. Another question from the audience. Yoga is a physical training, can be heard all the time. What do you mean by yoga is not a physical training? Apart from a common lifestyle, physical exercises and common lifestyle popularization. Andrey, I have already mentioned that without a step-by-step introduction of asceticism, karma, reincarnation and tapas by a yoga teacher, yoga stays as a physical training only. If certain spiritual aspects of yoga are not shed light on when disciples are ready, coming off gymnastics is extremely tough. Question from the audience. Why cannot this world that is meant to be just passed by someone whose motion vector goes down, turn someone around and change this vector? I just don't see the point of coming to the world just to pass it by without any hope to change. Andrey, you see? At the worst, this man can be sent directly downwards. As a rule, a man's degradation, actually a degradation of a soul, happens slowly, little by little. So he goes lower, lower and lower to experience everything. That's why he stays there for such a long time. As per different scriptures, the one who finds himself down can get up with extreme difficulties. Question from the audience. Is there a hope to change a vector? Andrey, I believe that he didn't move downwards. From a physical point of view, it's hardly possible to go down, 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 then, in a blink, he goes up. There is another version. He might have been moving up, but once happened in this world, he forgot himself in playing and lost the essence of this incarnation. Still, once he gets a chance to set out on a path, he'll use it. Andrey, I have a very important question. Those who share a Vedic outlook rely on such terms as karma, reincarnation, and, strangely enough, change of yugas. We live in a period of Kali Yuga or Night of Svarog. Regarding reincarnation, I don't have any doubts, as I think I have some experience, so no questions on this. If someone asks me on this regard, I may answer, get some personal experience, and everything will get clarified for you. Is it possible to gain some empiric experience of the law of karma to be sure that it's not just a speculative conclusion? I know that scriptures say about karma and competent people say the same, and even I understand the same and spread the word. But is it possible to get a real experience? I've been recently asked about this and got confused how to answer. Is karma just a theory without any proofs in action? Is there any practical method to learn about it, apart from you stumble and fall and believe that it's karma? Andrey, it's hard to answer as I cannot answer for everyone. For example, there are 10 people. Some may have the first level of clouding in their mind, others the 10th one. The level of enlightenment varies according to invert correlation. The more mind poisons, the less light. Is that clear? The one who has a brimful of mind poisons and minimum of light takes his stand at we live just once, as let's live to the maximum. So for these 10 people, you say different things with different energy to make them understand. You should not say the same words for everyone. Even 2 words would be enough for some people, but you will also meet up those who have blindness, and all your words are in vain. Coming back to karma, the easiest option for a non-yogi is to try a regressive hypnosis. It is a spread trend now. The person is brought into a state of past lives' memories. Chances are this hypnosis can help realize the reasons of this or that situation in his life. A certain correlation can be made. Why shit happened. He may see that he did something wrong in his past life. That's why he gets in the neck in this life. I know many people who, with the help of regressive hypnosis, crack some problems, solve some questions where logic cannot help. One has to go deep inside, learn something, and then take conclusions. So that's not only empiric method to learn about karma, and that it's not just a speculative conclusion like as you sow, so shall you reap. But it really works the way scriptures say of it, and it's not just a pure theory, even if one remembers his past lives and that there are retributions. Let them live the way they do. Let me give my example again. I got to know about the law of karma at the age of 22. I mean, at that age, I came across some books that allowed me to learn about karma. Trust me, I was smiling and spreading joy, because I lived for 22 years, and I knew there must be a law. There must be something that explains the nonsense of some events, why some things take place the way they do. So when I figured out of the law of karma, I got my puzzles together, and I realized everything. I realized why not such a good man enjoys his life. Then fun stops and he pays off. I don't have to be explained for a long time why the payoff comes. I have read about it and understood. Still, let me repeat that there are people who wouldn't believe in the law of karma. As a rule, those who deny karma have their fingers in pie. Another example. Once I have been asked to give a lecture about the law of karma in a super-duper fancy fitness club that cool people from Moscow only can attend. I had 2 classes on Sundays with a week gap. I was asked by some man from the fitness club who attended my yoga classes. They requested some normal yoga classes in contrary to the yoga classes the fitness club provides with. I said, fine, I'll give you a lecture and a yoga practice. Women in diamonds came for my lecture to practice yoga. They listened to information about reincarnation, having their heads in the clouds. Then I told them about karma and law of Rita and many other things they didn't like. You know, they didn't come for the next class. They dislike the truth of the world. Why so? Because a being that lives against consciousness at the expense of others cannot accept the law of karma as it is. Otherwise, how can he eat and sleep? His reply would be, it's a bullshit. Are you insane? Look at Petrov. What a villain he is and still blah blah blah. They also ask, the rich harm, but enlightened are always poor. Is it your karma? A question from the audience. From your standpoint, why do almost every yoga teacher start teaching? Question from the audience. Andrey, as per your point of view, why does almost every yoga teacher start teaching, making up some systems, if the basis of yoga is given in the original scriptures? Is it taken as self-realization, or it happens due to his pride or some events in his life shapes it up, such as getting through a spine column break, so he wants to help others overcome it? Why don't yoga teachers simply follow the original scriptures? There is too much of information in internet of yoga styles, but the essence of yoga can be put in 10 pages only. Why this happens? What's your opinion? Is it a personal arrogance? Andrey, what can I say? See that someone might have gathered a certain potential and create his style. It happens. But let's have a look at it from another angle. Imagine people incarnating to this planet from different others. Various planets have various yoga styles depending on inhabitants. They find themselves on this planet and notice that yoga differs. And they decide to practice the one they remember, and they do. I don't know why they don't read scriptures, it amazes me. Here is an example of Shukracharya, a teacher of demons, who reached perfection in yoga and lived very, very, very long. Indeed, he reached great heights in yoga. Still, he was a demon and managed demons, probably accumulating not such a good karma, as he literally fought with gods. Better say demons did, but Shukra helped them stay healthy. That's why he accumulated karma in not that great way. I can assure you that there are a lot of same Shukracharyas on our planet who are engaged in what we have already discussed, a promotion of a healthy spine without noticing a planet being destructed by people. Question from the audience, what about a student? He also suffers from his karma? Andrey, in my time I was surprised by people doing some nonsense. I felt compassion, but I didn't have enough of wisdom to realize some things. First of all, I got to understand that I prefer some people not to attend my classes. I mean, they better go somewhere where they can treat the spine by other tools. I understand a Mason principle, unity in variety. It is like that indeed. Imagine one yoga type for 10 differently evolved people. If people with more light come to me, my job is easier. If 3 people but full of mind poisons come to me, you know what happens to me? I know, and I don't want them to come. So they better go to the place where they are pushed ahead by their mind poisons. For a karma reason, only those who have to come will come to get a lesson. Look at me, I'm all thin with my messed up hair. I recently got a message, Andrey, your lectures are awesome, but you look terribly. And you know, he's right. I look terribly, but I don't lift a finger to fix it up. To put it shortly, it's my protection. Let people treat me as they want, it's easier for me, trust me. If I attract those who are used to accuracy and expect me to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, I don't want this, trust me. In that case, I wouldn't live for long. I'm just experienced, I deem. I prefer to look like green grass, to move a bit my way, so only I'm not bothered. The world is harmonic, believe me. Some demonic yoga styles that exist are really demonic as per me. Demonic in 2 meanings. Demo yoga is a preparation when people treat their spine, and they can do it for 30 lives. But understanding may come. It's a dead end. There is no result, no matter how much you strive for it. Then another approach appears. The fact is that there are really demonic styles that promote an absolute nonsense, putting material world first. I don't intend to judge anyone, but the unity is in its variety. Another example from my beta experience. Our team in Moscow accounts around 20-30 people who attend classes. The majority are into yoga for a long time, and we are like good friends because we think of energy we can create together. So, as soon as 1 or 2 newcomers with full of mind poisons come, the class goes down. You see? 1 or 2 people affects the atmosphere dramatically. Let me chew it over again. There are 30 people who intend to practice, to turn the energy by converting it, and leave the studio renewed. 1 or 2 people with mind poisons come, and there is no result for others. That's why I stand up for Iyengar yoga and other styles.